Fleabag, if you hit that pig whistle, we'll get rolling here. What's that? We're rolling already? Dude, we got to coordinate this thing a little bit better. All right. Okay. Jesus H. Christ on a popsicle stick. Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know about you guys, but I'm down with the day after Super Bowl being a national holiday. Well, discombobulated today. Fleabag, get Trump on the phone while I do this. Hey, from Hollywood, it's the world-famous Mojo Elliott here to troll your soul and bring you another action-packed adventure of the Rat's Ass Podcast. Hey, what a game. 40-22? It was 40-6. It was a blowout. To be quite honest with you, I shut the game off at halftime. I did not want to be subjected to that halftime show. And I didn't want to be subjected to the refrigerator. So I just turned the game off and actually came up to my office to prepare for the Rat's Ass Podcast today. I've watched enough football to know when a team isn't going to come back. I mean, let's face it. It was a blowout, 24-0 at halftime. And the telltale sign on this was how Philadelphia's offensive and defensive lines were tossing Kansas City's offensive and defensive lines around like rag dolls. And it wasn't going to change. Now, my prediction, remember what I told you on Friday's podcast. I said a close game would favor Kansas City, and if Philadelphia was going to win, they had to blow them out. They had to be up by at least 15 heading into the fourth quarter. And now, I took Kansas City to win the game by 4, so I was wrong about that. But here's the deal. As a Raiders fan, I kind of felt like picking Kansas City to jinx them, and it worked. My jinx worked. I did it for Raider Nation. But hopefully, after this blowout, it forces Kansas City to have to rethink things and blow the team up a little bit. So it gives the Raiders, maybe they start building that foundation to become more competitive. And we've got a really good AFC Western division to watch. So I'm happy that Philadelphia throttled Kansas City. And it was worth being wrong, to be quite honest with you. Now, we were probably robbed of seeing Travis Kelce propose to Taylor Swift if the Chiefs had won the game. So we were deprived of that. I thought it was interesting, and then not, that Taylor Swift got booed. When they announced there were more Philly fans inside the stadium than Chiefs fans, and let's figure this out. You know, Kansas City going to their third straight Super Bowl. Let's face it, Kansas City fans had been through the Biden administration for 4 years. They couldn't afford to go. Philadelphia, on the other hand, they hate everything outside of Philadelphia. So I understand why they booed Taylor Swift. I don't think she was really bothered too much by it either. But Trump got a hero's welcome. Heard a spattering of boos, obviously, but for the most part, I'd say 90% of the stadium was standing and cheering during the national anthem for President Trump. Now, somebody made this assumption that everybody was cheering. They showed Trump, and they were cheering for the start of the game. And that's just, leftist nonsense. But I find it funny that they'll take anything and find any little thing to try and just, spit on it. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. But reading social media this morning, I guess people weren't too happy with the halftime show with Kendrick Lamar, saying it was too cultural and that it was, again, the hip-hop culture preaching to white America. Again, people's opinions are interesting to read about all of this. But since I didn't watch the halftime show, I can't really comment on it. I just know that as a radio programmer, I had hip-hop and R&B stations in my clusters, and I hired people who understood the culture and the music to run it. I didn't need to be knowledgeable about hip-hop music or even like it. Same thing with country music. I hate it. But I had probably 20 country stations that I oversaw for many years. But I always hired people who lived the country lifestyle and loved country music to run those radio stations. I didn't have to like it to be successful. But yeah, 24-0 was a blowout. The way Philadelphia was kind of just picking up Kansas City's offensive line, said, get out of my way. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, this guy, he saw fear. And that's how you beat Pat Mahomes. I saw the Raiders throttle Kansas City the same way, simply because their offensive line outplayed Kansas City's offensive line. And I'll tell you, I didn't take that in consideration when I was crunching the data either. As far as commercials go, again, did not see any commercials even in the first half. I started the game 30 minutes after it started. And I do this with every program so I can fast forward through commercials. I have YouTube TV, and that allows you to fast forward through the commercials. Life's just too damn short to sit through commercials. And I don't think people, it used to be they used to rate these and have fun with the commercials. I'm not seeing hardly any comment about commercials after this Super Bowl. So I think there's probably a lot of people who record the game, maybe watch it later or start it late so they can fast forward through them. I know I sure as hell wouldn't pay the freight that they're asking for Super Bowl commercial rates these days. I just don't think the eyeballs are on them. And maybe they'll get a sense of that on social media, saying, geez, why are we paying so much money? It doesn't seem like people are as into them as they used to be. But you're going to feel a little bit of letdown now that football season is over, because it's not there. And we've had it in our face with college football and pro football since August that we start getting ramped up with preseason. So it is going to feel like you lost an appendage for a few weeks. But here's what you got coming up to look forward to. Today, spring training starts for baseball season. I'm a diehard Reds fan, and I know the masses really don't care about the Reds, but I'm excited for this season. But I'll spare you my Reds rant. But just know that pitchers and catchers are showing up today, ramping up for baseball season that will start towards the end of March. I am planning to going to spring training, though. Go over to Arizona to catch a week of the Reds spring training. I always go the last week of spring training because you're going to see more of the players who will make the show during the last week. So I'm looking forward to that. I did some pricing on this, and my God, it's gotten expensive to go to spring training even. Last time I went was 2010. I probably did a whole week in Arizona for less than $500, including travel, hotel, everything. I think it's probably quadruple that now. But that's on the horizon, spring training. We got March Madness coming up, the NBA, NHL season's playing out, then you got the playoffs and the finals. UFL football, if you need your football fix, that's going to be ramping up here fairly quick. We'll see if Birmingham can repeat. WNBA with Caitlin Clark, her second season. She's had time to rest. How much more dynamic is she going to be this year? And then we've got the NFL draft coming up in April. So plenty of stuff to keep us sports fans busy. I did take time to kind of check out the weekend talk shows, political talk shows. And it was very funny to me that everybody was talking about big balls. I really believe they said, hey, we never get a chance to talk about balls. Let's talk about big balls, because now we can get away with it. The FCC isn't going to fine us for being dirty. But yeah, big balls, if you don't know, is this 20-year-old kid working for DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, that everybody's all high and mighty on, like, why do we have this kid looking into our information and making suggestions on our budgets? You know, it's the typical thing. You got these old politicians who are near death, and they're pissed off that the young people are getting involved in their business. You know, they feel that they should be involved in our business, but we shouldn't be involved in theirs. So they're having a hissy fit over all of this. Last night, Donald Trump tweeted, but it's not a tweet, it's an X. I don't think they figured out a way to call this, so they still call them tweets, even though it's called X. But he announced that we were suspending the manufacturing of pennies, because it cost 1.8 cents to make 1 penny. So we feel that we can save some money there. And this is what Trump is doing. He's going through each of the government departments and basically looking to see where we can save money. We got to shrink the size of government. It can't get bigger. It can't stay the same. We're $36 trillion in debt. Okay? I mean, anybody that comes in, I don't care if it's the president or a new CEO of a company, the first thing they're going to look into is where's the money at? How much are we making? How much are we spending? And you got to reel it in. Democrats they've always been tax and spend. Okay, if we run out of money, they just want to tax you more money. Well, you can't tax Americans any more than what we're being taxed now. We're tapped out, for crying out loud. Things are more expensive now. So, you know, you would just destroy the country if you put another tax increase on everybody. So, you know, the penny's not a big deal. I mean, we're going to digital currency anyway. I mean, you know, if we run out of pennies, I guess we can always print more, but there's probably enough in circulation. But it costs I think it's 7.5 cents to make a nickel. But are you okay with rounding things up? Wouldn't you rather go to the gas station, just pay a flat $4, $5, $6 a gallon, as opposed to the game of, hey, it's $5.99 9, not exactly $6 a gallon. Who gives a rat's ass? Just make it, round it up. Let's just round everything up to the fives and forget the damn penny. How long has it been since you've written a check? I haven't written a check in years. I finally had to write one to somebody who had done some work here at the Elliott Estate. I had to write them a check. I swear to God, I had to void 2 checks because I had forgotten how to write a check. It was crazy. It's been years. And, I keep $100 cash in my wallet. And when it runs out, I go replenish it. It probably takes me about 3 to 4 months to spend that $100 in cash. So I really don't think, as we charge towards the digital currency, that dollar bills and coins makes a huge difference. But again, the Democrats are having a hissy fit over canceling the penny. So we'll go through that Democratic dipshittery this week. But we're going all digital. By 2035, we'll be 100% digital. I have mixed feelings about it because I feel like the more digital we become, the less freedom we have. We're going to be able to hide anything at that point. You used to be able to maybe make some cash on the side and just say, nobody's going to know about this. I'm just going to pocket it and not pay any tax on it. Not going to be able to do that anymore. All right, another thing that came out over the weekend, the announcement that Becoming Led Zeppelin will be released this weekend. Now, I love Led Zeppelin, okay? The first time I heard Led Zeppelin 1, Dazed and Confused, my world changed. Absolutely changed. I've been in love with Led Zeppelin since then. I was disappointed I didn't get to see them in concert in 1977. I was on my way, but my date canceled. I ended up selling the tickets, didn't get to see them. But we had no idea that John Bonham would die of alcohol poisoning. And the band ended. Robert Plant said, if there's no John Bonham, there is no Led Zeppelin. And I think he was right on that. They made the right call in ending the band. And we've seen over the years lots of documentaries about Led Zeppelin. 2007, they played a live concert, a benefit for Amant, their manager, at the O2 Arena in London that you can get on DVD and CD, and it's outstanding, with Jason Bonham singing in, John Bonham's son. Thought it was great. Disappointed that Led Zepp didn't pick it up from there and go on. They just didn't do it. But now we got this documentary coming out this weekend, Being Led Zeppelin, and it's, I guess the pull into this, because we know the Led Zeppelin story. There's not much new that you can tell. But the way they've done this particular documentary is, they're teasing it with never seen before concert footage. Okay? They could give you 20 seconds, and that's a correct, statement. So I'm not really worried about the new unseen concert footage, because we've seen a lot of concert footage over the years. It's not going to change that much. But this one's going to be narrated by Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, and John Paul Jones, the remaining members of Led Zeppelin. And I think hearing it now at this age, because they're all well into their 70s, hearing the story of Led Zeppelin from their point of view is going to be very, very, very interesting. All right, let's play some head trauma. Let's see how you're doing on this Monday after the Super Bowl. I'll try and keep it light on you. All right, we're going to play the head game this round. Let's see if you can work this out. If you were to take 2 apples from 3 apples, how many would you have? Sounds pretty easy, right? I'll have the answer for you coming up, and I'll post it on the Rat's Ass Podcast Facebook page. You can connect at ratsasspodcast.com. All right, are you ready for some loose behavior? Here's what's happening on the Rat's Ass Podcast X feed. Donkey Dan, don't ask, posted this one. All right, if you could choose to be one age for the rest of your life, what age would you choose and why? Now, there isn't anything really funny ha-ha here. It's really funny, Ben Thomas said 25, because that's when your life really begins, and you're free to do as you please as long as you're not married yet. Yeah, that marriage thing seems to get in the way of freedom, doesn't it? Lisa Freeman said 40. She said, that's when you're finally wise enough to see through all the bullshit. Well, hopefully it's before 40, but she seems to feel that 40 is that age. James W. said 44. Said, if you've played your cards right, you've made enough money to finally go enjoy it. Man, I'd thought about that. It's at 44. God, if you had to work from what, 18, maybe 22 to 44, 22 years before you could go enjoy the fruits of your labor, that's a lot. But overall, the average man said that 27 was the right age to just be 27 for the rest of your life. Women, it was 33. Overall, flat out 30 was the best age if you're going to pick one age as a median age there. Mine would be 25 because you really are old enough to know better and too young to resist. Now it's just something I say to avoid telling people how old I am, because I can get away with looking a lot younger than I am. But I think if you listen to the podcast, mentally I am still 25. I don't deny it. I will never deny it because that's the goal. 25 forever, man. All right, let's get into today's celebrity cheese. And, to be real with you, there's just a bunch of uninteresting nonsense nobody really gives a rat's ass happening, like Cardi B twerking nonstop at a Super Bowl party and spraining her butt. Who cares? David Schwimmer wanting Elon Musk to ban Kanye West on X for his hate speech. I think it was about the Jonas Brothers or something like that. Also something about Jennifer Aniston, Selena Gomez trying a new way to wax their whoobies. Do we care? I don't think so. So let's not do this and act like we did, all right? Here comes the Rat's Ass Podcast email from our Gmail. You email your questions, comments, thoughts, and observations to me at ratsasspodcast@gmail.com, and I respond. No topic is off the table this year, and good luck offending me. Bring it all on. The more outrageous and salacious, the better. I do not read your emails in advance. My producer, Fleabag, forwards me your name, where you're from, and rewrites them so I can respond rapid fire and on the fly. Carl D. from Tennessee City, Tennessee, said, why do you have such a hard-on for Democrats? Fleabag, way to go. Monday after the Super Bowl, punch in the face. Thank you for this one. Oh, God. Well, Carl, it's not that I have a hard-on for Democrats. I have a hard-on for the radical left Democrats that we deal with here in California that almost took the nation by storm if you would have elected Kamala Harris. That's who I have the hard-on for. Okay, I have plenty of moderate, centrist-leaning Democratic friends who are embarrassed by these people. They are absolutely embarrassed. And they trace it back to Obama, Obama-Biden, Biden-Harris, all of this nonsense and all the things we dealt with from 2016 to 2020 with the constant attacks on Donald Trump. Those are the people I have a hard-on for. They have not been good for this country. And that's why Kamala Harris was soundly defeated in November. So, granted, the Democrats have a problem. They have a huge problem with the identity of their party. And it's a shame that the really common sense Democrats have just been washed out with the bathwater on this. Alex P., Ocean City, Maryland. What are your thoughts about the Lakers trade with Mark Williams blowing up? Yeah, it was surprising. I would have thought they would have done their due diligence before making the trade, but they always go through, well, he's here now, let's have our team look at them medically, and apparently Mark Williams has some medical issues beyond the back, and the Lakers didn't want to deal with it, so they rescinded the trade. So the Lakers get Dalton Knecht, Cam Reddish, and their 2 picks back to work with in the future, and hopefully sometimes the best trades made are the ones that never happen. Hopefully that's one. I've been, as you know, I write an article on the Lakers called Double Dribble for Land of Lakers blog. And, I pointed out today that there's a lot of people down on Jackson Hayes. I will tell you that Hayes, even though he's not Mark Williams, but he plays every game, the Lakers have won 5 in a row without Anthony Davis and without Luka Doncic in the lineup. They won Saturday over Indiana thanks to Austin Reeves' 45 points without LeBron James. So they've won 5 in a row through all of this mucky-muck they've been dealing with. And I think if the Lakers give Jackson Hayes the opportunity and tell him you're the guy for the rest of the season, and if he can get 10 points, 10 rebounds a game and play good defense, and he's got that ability to jump, and they were talking about Doncic having the liking a center who can, take the lobs and dunk. He's pretty good at it. So I think that the Lakers are going to find out having a guy off the bench like Dalton Knecht for three-point shooting is going to be more beneficial maybe than having Mark Williams. We got 32 games to find out. Damian C., Amarillo, Texas, said, I met two girls. Here we go. We got getting into the juice, baby. I met two girls in a bar on Friday. Excuse me. And we ended up at my place. We fell asleep buck naked. I'll stop bragging. And when I woke up, they were gone and they robbed me. Oh, wow. Really? So money, jewelry, and phone. I just want to warn guys to be careful. There are some nasty women out there. Geez, Damien, it hasn't changed since I was a young guy. Okay, and I'm sorry that happened to you, but it's part of the play you pay code. And I'll share a piece of advice with you, shared with me a long time ago. If it looks like a one-nighter, never bring chicks back to your place. Either go to their place or get a hotel. Because now they know where you live. Now you open yourself up to some stalking. Can be a real problem. Can be a real mother-father. So a little piece of advice for you there. But, sorry that you lost all that. You had a good time, but you lost all of your stuff. Sorry about that. Ella J. from Brisbane, Australia said, I really enjoy your podcast and sense of humor. Thanks, Ella. I typically listen to you when I'm on the loo. On the loo. Okay, well, that's a nice visual. What Ella's saying is she listens when she's on the John, the porcelain god, also known as the Dunny in Australia. But Ella added, how do men feel about women who've been single for a long time? Mixed figures, I guess, on this one. Personally, it doesn't bother me, but I have noticed, I believe, in talking with friends that have gone through this, that single women who've been that way for a long time tend to be more stubborn, independent, and more than likely have trust issues. But I think to each his own on something like that, Ella. But thanks for the compliment. I appreciate it. Lewis K., Bristol, Rhode Island, said, I read your article about getting insomnia around the time change. I used to have the same issue until a friend recommended to me to take a shot of Fireball before bedtime. Now I sleep through the alarm, and you're welcome. Well, thanks for that tip, Lewis. I'll go pick up a bottle of Fireball then and give it a shot. Yeah, I'm averaging like 3 to 4 hours a night as we get up to the time change. I absolutely cannot sleep for the life of me. And I think it goes back to when I was doing morning radio for 20 years. I always feared oversleeping and missing the show. And so I think that habit still, it's been 19 years since I've done a morning show. And it never changes with the time change. And I'm not about to move back to Arizona to find out where they don't change the clocks to see if that's the problem. Fireball seems like a reasonable solution to this, so I'll let you know on Wednesday if it works, but thanks for the tip, Lewis. Greg B. from Richmond, Virginia. I'm a recently fired radio personality looking to start a podcast to become my own media person like you've done. How is your podcast different from your radio show? Greg, I'll be happy to talk about this with you. Just email me your phone number. Let's get a phone call together. I love talking with radio people because that's my family. So I'm so happy to hear from you about this. And it's tough when you lose your gig, but the fact is, radio is a dying profession. New media is where it's at. That's why I decided to give it a shot after I kind of left terrestrial radio at the end of 2022. I took a couple of years off and started to do this, and we're now heading into our 5th month of the Rat's Ass podcast now. So how is my podcast different from the radio show? I haven't changed. I'm me. I'm less filtered. I don't have to be as filtered when you're on terrestrial radio or mainstream radio. You have to watch your P's and Q's there because the FCC is looking to fine you all the time. Here I can be more free. I can drop F-bombs naturally if it happens. I don't go out of my way to do it. Sometimes they just happen. But I'm more free to be me. So what you hear is what you get. What I'm missing is my dynamic duo of Donna and Summer, my partners. Back when we did the radio show together, we dominated the market. It was like waking up to a very fun threesome every morning because those two kept me in check, number one. And number two, they were just outrageous to work with. They were fun. And we had a good run together of many years. And so I do miss that. but it has been a long time. So it's 100% me. It's not really too much different from the radio show outside of I'm just missing my left and my right hook. That's what I'm missing. Bella B, Cordoba, Spain. I'm not a very sexually experienced person, and you pretend to be a sexpert, so tell me, where's the best place to kiss a man above the belt to get him aroused? Well, first of all, Bella, I get to pretend to be a sexpert. That's perfect. Yes, I'm pretending to be a sexpert. So I'm going to steal that. I'm going to use it in my show. Sometimes I find very clever things that you guys feed me, and I pick up on them. So yes, I will be Mojo Elliott, the pretend sexpert here on the podcast. But the answer to your question is pick an ear. I don't think a lot of women know about this, but for men, the ear can be very, very arousing. So if you're making out, just kind of, pick an ear. That's all I can tell you. If you have any thoughts, observations, comments, or questions, send them to me to ratsasspodcast@gmail.com. And if they're salacious and outrageous, we'll try to get them on the podcast. All right, you ready for your head trauma answer? This round is called the head game. Were you able to work it out? The question is, if you were to take 2 apples from 3, how many would you have? Now, you probably thought, oh, this is easy, 1. You got to pay attention to the question. The correct answer, of course, would be 2, not 1. What you take is what you have. So listen to the question again. If you were to take 2 apples from 3 apples, how many would you have? How many would you have taken? But in your mind, you heard how many would you have left. That's why we call it the head game. How'd you do? Well, if you missed it, you know you have to go see your doctor about your head trauma now. I got to go screw my head on tight, but I do have one more thing for you. In 1994, the Los Angeles Police Department arrested a man for dressing up as the Grim Reaper and standing outside the windows of old folks at old folks' homes at night. The visual that gives me. To see somebody, I know it's probably cruel and sounds cruel, but just the idea that somebody was standing out old people's homes dressed as a Grim Reaper tells you how sick and twisted I am. But Fleabag, give me the addresses for Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, please. All right, I've got shout-outs in the USA for Mankato, Minnesota, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and Flagstaff, Arizona. And by the way, these shout-outs go because we might have had at least one person from these towns listening to the Rat's Ass podcast. And hopefully, those folks will tell their friends, and they'll tell their friends, and we'll continue this forest fire, this global forest fire we're trying to set here. Also, around the world, in Toronto, Canada, Amadora, Portugal, and Zapopan, Mexico. Thank you for listening to the Rat's Ass Podcast. And that's going to do it for this episode. Make sure you check out the new Rat's Ass Podcast website at ratsasspodcast.com. You can connect with us on the socials, listen to podcasts, check out the blog, where you can catch my articles on all kinds of stuff, from current events, pop culture, music, sports. We talk about sex, we do the Q&A, and of course the Dumbass of the Week awards too. Check it out there at ratsasspodcast.com, and soon you'll be able to sign up for Rats Nation, our fan club. All right, we'll do this again on Wednesday, February 12th. We'll find out how the fireball does. Take care of each other, and thanks for stopping by the Rat's Ass Podcast.